Hello everyone, my name is Morgan. Today we're going to be talking about a few tips that I learned on the way of starting my business. I have a business, you guys. I know it's something that you guys probably didn't already know unless you follow me on social media, but I did start a business and it is called MOR-GAN. But we could do a whole separate video about that. Today I really just wanted to talk about like the steps that I did for all you aspiring small business owners. And you know, I kind of want to share my journey with you guys. Although I've already launched, I want to share you know, what I've kind of gone through so far and how you can start your small business. Alright, so I do have some notes on my phone, and pretty much I just want to start off this whole thing with what are you selling? What do you want to sell? That's like the number one thing you really want to make sure you have solid before you even think about, you know, jumping into the rest of the things. And I think this is probably one of the most important things, because I see a lot of small businesses that are just starting out. They're trying to do multiple things with their business, but I think if you find one thing that you're good at or one thing that you really are passionate about and, you know, turn that into a business, I feel like it could be really successful. Once you find that success, then it might be okay to branch onto other things. But I mean, it's completely up to you. That's what I found out kind of works for me and what I've seen with other successful business owners. So find out what products you want to even create or you want to even sell and start there. So once you found that product that you're passionate about, that you know you want your business to be all about this, you want to go ahead and come up with a business name. Now, this I thought was going to be super easy, but guys, it took me months. It took me months to figure out what I wanted to name my business. You know, I went through generators, I, you know, thought of names, and it just, it's not meant to be an easy process, and you don't want to rush it. Personally, like I said, I named my business MOR-GAN, and I got this name from the Greek word moraki, which basically means to put something like your soul, creativity into your work. So I kind of took that as a really special meaning, because the products that I make, I hand make all of my products. It's basically like a piece of me going into my work, and then every time somebody buys my products, a piece of me, they're taking a piece of me with them. So I really thought that that was special, and I really wanted that incorporated into my brand. So, you know, if you have a special name, like I know when I was in high school, my middle name is Ariel, if you guys haven't already kind of picked that up. I used to make little jewelry, and I wanted to like call my shop like just Ariel's, and you know, that could happen in the future. But you want to find something that has meaning to you. You really want to find a good name, because you don't want to, you know, run into the issue where you're like, oh, well, I don't like this name anymore, you know, I want to change it. Not that that's a bad thing, you know. Here's just a bunch of, like, a couple of companies that have changed their names, and look where they're at now. You know, we all have to start out somewhere, but I think it's really important if you take your time when trying to pick a name. So in naming your business, you want to make sure that you have a social media account that is tied to your business. You want to create an account for Facebook, you want to create an account for Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, Snapchat, you know, all of that stuff. You want to make sure that it's available and it's not taken. You know, I was able to get all of my social media accounts, you know, all have the same name. So get your social media accounts. That's where you're going to be running ads. That's where most of your traffic to your website is going to be coming from social media. If you don't have social media and you're trying to run an online business, it's not going to work out. It's not going to work out, and I promise you that 100%. All right, now that you have figured out what you're going to sell and your name, you want to do research. So like I said, I personally make my own products, but that doesn't mean that I don't need a manufacturer. Like I need, like, you know, when it comes to shipping, you know, that's completely different. I can make a whole different video, but like, for example, like I need containers for the stuff that I'm making, like jars and stuff like that. I need to go to a vendor to get that stuff, and most likely it's going to be wholesale, because I can get a cheaper price. Wholesale is going to be your best friend. All of these shops and companies, these big companies, these clothing stores, they don't spend, you know, $12, $20 on a shirt. You know, they are probably paying a lot lower to get multiple quantities at one single time. One of the main places that I look for when searching for products is Alibaba. Alibaba has become really my best friend throughout this whole process. It's a really good resource. I've seen numerous people, and I even fell into the trap of paying for vendors, which it's not a bad thing. It saves you plenty of time, but it's money that you're having to spend up front to get, you know, 200 vendors that you could have easily found on Google if you just, you know, took the time to research it. It's very free, you know, and it's not just Google. Like, it's so many platforms. TikTok is just a huge platform, you know, where there's so much information. Google, there's so much information. And if you know, have the time, I do recommend, you know, actually taking the time to research where you can go to get certain products from certain manufacturers or certain vendors. Along with Alibaba, people do also use AliExpress, but that usually has a longer wait time compared to Alibaba, which, you know, AliExpress, you're probably looking at over a month to get like a sample product, even if you're getting samples, which I do recommend. Samples, you always want to start out with a sample product. You never want to order a whole big quantity at one time. Get samples first. Always ask. Sometimes they are free. But let's get back to Alibaba. It only maybe takes about a couple of days to like a week to get the product. So that's why I really prefer Alibaba. And Alibaba is really typically where all of your vendors and manufacturers are. So I recommend Alibaba. Okay, so once you've created your account and you officially have your shop name, you want to go ahead and make sure that you are able to get a domain. You want to get your domain with your store name. For example, me, I use Marikai Official. I could have also used Shop Marikai, which is my social media handle, which is at Shop Marikai, and I may look into doing that. But you want to try to get everything to align so it is less confusing for your audience. I personally use GoDaddy, and I think I spent like $15 for the entire year. But quick and easy, I just use GoDaddy and it's working great for me. So let's talk about trademarking, because is it important? Should you have a trademark? And I think if you're just starting out, I don't think it's as necessary. And if you're unfamiliar with what a trademark is, it pretty much prevents somebody from taking your name or trying to use it, or, you know, it's basically making the name yours. The name legally belongs to you, and nobody could use that name for anything else. The only thing with trademarks is that, for example, if you have a trademark for clothing and then somebody has a trademark for like beauty, those are two separate trademarks. You can have two trademarks with the same name, but they are under two different categories, and that's perfectly fine. So you want to make sure, this is where it comes into mind, like different products that you're trying to sell, because then you need to make sure that your trademark includes all of those categories. So that's when it could start to get pricey. But like I said, if you're a small business, I really wouldn't worry too much about it. But when you start to become a bigger company, then it's something that you might eventually want to consider. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the business side of things. And let's go ahead and start off with, what type of business are you running? You have sole proprietorship, you have an LLC, a corporation. It's completely up to you. I personally registered my business as an LLC, and the main difference between an LLC and a sole proprietorship is that in an LLC, you and your business are separate. So that means basically if somebody decides to come after you and sue you, they cannot come after your personal assets. I think in the state of Florida, it costs around $125 to register my business as an LLC. But you do need to check with your state requirements, because every state is different. Some might be less expensive, some might be more expensive. So yeah, just check with your state and you should be able to get all the information that you need. Okay, so once you've registered your business with your state, you want to go ahead and register your business with the IRS. And pretty much this is basically for tax purposes. At the end of everything, you're going to get an EIN number, or it's also called a federal tax ID. And pretty much what this number is, it's like a social security number, but it's for your business. I know for a lot of different wholesalers, they do require your EIN number. And this basically kind of excludes you from paying taxes on wholesale items. So I know, for example, in the United States, there are a lot of wholesalers that do require you to, that do require your EIN number. So if you don't have that, then you won't be able to buy wholesale items specifically in the United States. I know if you're buying overseas from like China, they usually don't. So that's why I like Alibaba and AliExpress. The next thing that I do think is pretty important is getting a PO box. And for me, I make my products at home. When I'm shipping out products, I want my return address to list the PO box, just for, you know, some extra added layer of security. I think it's just a good option in general. I started off with about 6 months, and that cost me about $50. Of course, you could do a year for about $100. Okay, so since I have an LLC, of course, you want to make sure that you have a business bank account. I think in general, it's just a good idea because it separates your personal finances from your business finances. Personally, I have a business checking and a savings. So of course, your checking account, that's where all of your transactions will be occurring, your incoming, outgoing, stuff like that. But your savings account, I use that for tax purposes. So anytime that I have a sale, whatever tax was collected, I'll go ahead and move that from my checking account to my savings account. That way, when tax season comes around, I could just go ahead and take whatever is in my savings, pay the IRS, and I can just be done with it. So you will need your EIN number to open up your business checking account. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the fun part, and that's basically who's hosting your shop. I use Shopify. For the basic plan, that will run you about $29 a month. Now it is a little pricey, especially if you're just starting out. They do have a free trial. I've seen 14 days. Sometimes they do specials where it's up to 90 days, a month. You just have to catch them, but I think generally it is 14 days. I used those 14 days and I put work in. I went ahead and designed my shop. There are a whole lot of apps that you could choose from to install to your Shopify plan. I could go ahead and make this a completely separate video on all of the apps that I have installed and I use on a day-to-day basis for my store. It's just something that you just have to kind of dig in, but I think Shopify is just, it works for me. I don't know what works for you, but it works for me, and it's working. I think it's like the #1 hosting site that people do use. There's honestly a whole bunch of stuff that I can get into that I won't get into today. But if you guys have any questions regarding, you know, how to create a store, or the apps that I use, or just any questions, like, just let me know and I'll make a video on it. Alright guys, so that is going to conclude today's video. I really hope you guys learn some helpful pieces of information. If you're thinking about starting your business and you're hesitating, just do it, you know? Don't worry about if it's going to be successful or not, because you know, I was worried about that for the longest, you know, and I really needed that push, and I'm so glad that I have friends that, you know, encouraged me to start my own business, and that kind of pushed me. And you know, now look at me, I'm a business owner and it's only up from here, and I'm really excited for you guys to follow me on this journey. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.